Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. It's good to have you back on the Proof of Discussion POD podcast. Today, you will notice we're maybe missing someone who is typically around, but we do have, in my opinion, a better replacement. We have Miss Vosk, the wonderful Alexa, Miss Vosk. She's going to be joining us on the podcast today. Welcome, Alexa.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's so good to finally I think for the audience as well as for myself, like be able to, meet up, chat, have a bit of a discussion, see what life is like behind the, VoskCoin curtain, for someone other than Vosk, because, the past two episodes we've had, Vosk has given us a lot of insight into life as a crypto YouTuber, crypto miner, someone who is in the public presence, in the public space a lot. But for you, it's a little bit different. You're, also deep in the VoskCoin space, but you are the support. You're that foundation that really helps him move things along. So it's really cool to have you on, and I'm really excited to hear more about everything that you're experiencing with the brand. So maybe we can even begin there, just as an opening question. How long have you, as Alexa, been with Vosk as a partner? How long have you known each other? How did you guys meet? And then, how has the experience of growing together, how has that been?
Yeah, so Drew and I have been together since 2016, so 7 years now. Um, so actually, before the channel started, we were together. We actually met at a park nearby where our parents lived. I just graduated college and I came home and I was getting ready to start up work full time. And we had met at a park, and of course, Tails was a cute little puppy. We call her our little wing woman. So I saw her and went over and said hi, and then the rest is history from there. But yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So she really is a huge part of our lives, both from the start and now. But yeah, we've been together since then. We just got engaged this year, and we're getting married next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so we're excited for that. Um, but but yeah, in terms of the brand side, I just had my second year anniversary working with VoskCoin full time. I've kind of been behind the scenes helping out like after work and on the weekends with him, just kind of building the brand behind the scenes, whether that be building trio miners or helping him shoot a new set or putting together mining regs or just researching brand ideas or competitors and stuff like that. So I've kind of been behind the scenes there, but then within the last 2 years, I've taken more of a full time role. I help with like the marketing side, so help build partnerships and relationships with different customers, and then help kind of with the team too. So our editing team, which is awesome, we have a full time team of 7 people, so it's a lot of work to kind of manage everybody. And so I try to keep tabs on like our schedule, our upload schedule, any kind of partnerships we have, anything that we need to like make sure we're getting out, that kind of stuff. So more of like the branding, marketing, and outreach is kind of my wheelhouse. I'm not super comfortable on camera, so uh, boss is always like, well, you need, like, I want you to do more videos, I want you to be on camera. And it's not my strong suit, but I enjoy being
That's okay.
behind the
We know you're the backbone, especially as someone who has like you similar to your experience, worked with Vosk at a pretty personal level.
Mhm.
As a startup of our size, 7 people. It's not a massive company. It's not some big corporate entity, and we work closely together really often. So
Mhm.
even over the years, having worked with both of you guys, and as you mentioned, in the last like 2 years, having you come on, it really changed the game, I think, for our kind of content production line, because we were really hitting a lot of bottlenecks in terms of
Mhm.
how to get things done with myself and Vosk, and one or two other editors at that time. But once you came in and took a lot of the more heavy back end off, I think it helped Vosk a lot, and by virtue, the entire team. So it's been, really exciting working with you, and it's been really awesome getting to see you guys as well, together, building this brand, not just over the weekends anymore, not just packaging merch and sending it through and all of those, previous memes that have been around, but now this is like your full-time job. You left a career for this. Tell us more about like how that is. How was that jump?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult at first, especially because I enjoyed my last job a lot. It was something I was passionate about. And there is some overlay in what I used to do versus what I do now. Basically, I was a program manager within like the government sector here. So I worked with a government contractor and I helped manage like an internship program across the country. So it was a lot of like similar stuff that we do now, just managing budgets, managing people, managing onboarding, checking stuff like presentations, event planning, a lot of that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a lot of overlap. And then I also did a bunch of like UX design and marketing for that company as well. So there was definitely some overlap where I saw like what Vosk was trying to create and kind of develop this image. And I was like, well, here's some things that I think we could do. Here's some tools like Trello that I think would be super
Wow.
useful.
The life savior of the channel
Yeah.
at this stage. Like if the audience, if you're not aware, Trello is like a software that allows you to manage projects. It's a project management software, and
Mhm.
it is the absolute like savior for the channel. It allows us to really keep track of all of our videos, because previously it was just a Discord server and we were
Yeah.
just fumbling around. But now having Trello, when you arrived, you kind of immediately jumped in, and it was like Trello got set up and the workflow could just really move a lot smoother. So that is like definitely, I think, something that's really worth noting.
Yeah, and I worked a lot. I was a certified Scrum Master, which is kind of like program management, breaking down, working in software of like kind of planning out different they call them sprints, basically what you do each week, what you do each month, and just kind of breaking tasks down so they're more easy to accomplish and the team can kind of see where things are in the process. And so that's kind of where I introduced Trello to the team, because a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that I see from Vosk is like I'm trying to juggle all these different tasks, trying to remember who has what video, when is it due, what has to be on it, what links do I need, and all this stuff. And so I kind of tried to figure out where we could get some of Vos's brain space back and maybe turn that into like, well, if we have a Trello board, that's one less thing that you need to keep track of. Everybody else can update it whenever they are in the process and you can kind of see everything overhead. So that was one of the things that I think helped the team kind of like streamline that process a little bit more and get Vos back some of the time he needed to kind of do the more grand things, the less admin-y type stuff.
Yeah, no, I think it has really been an amazing chance to create that space in which we can work really effectively. But in just in line with, even as you mentioned, the overlap between your previous work and your current position now with Vosk, this new position is entirely crypto focused, whereas previously it was government and just general, work sector stuff. How has that shift been between, coming from that space into this entirely new world of cryptocurrency, this
Mhm.
new emerging market? How has that been? How is the whole shift to crypto? How have you found it?
So I think there's actually quite a bit of overlap between. I think a lot of people see that, oh, crypto is a brand new sector, like there's a lot of growing pains and all that stuff. And I think most of the growing pains are actually in the technology itself and kind of making it more mainstream and less so in the not corporate side, but like the job aspect. Because I mean, if you think about it, every single company has a marketing team. Every single company has deadlines. They have a brand. They have content that they're creating. They have a team. So I tried to bring my strengths into the stuff that I did know and then try to figure out the stuff I didn't know. So I think a lot of crypto it's just changing so fast. And so it's really hard to like call yourself a subject matter expert, even though you have been in the space for so long, because things are changing so much. So a lot of times, like, that was probably one of the biggest differences between the two jobs, was just like, here are all the people who are experts about something, and then go into crypto, which is a brand new technology, brand new, not even mainstream. There's a lot of hurdles, a lot of kind of learning curves, and just kind of figuring out, how do we explain this in a way that people can understand it and not have to do the hours of research that we do behind the scenes. So I think that was a big difference for me, of just trying to wrap my head around what is blockchain and how do you explain it to somebody that's never done or heard of this stuff before. Whereas in my old job, it was like talking to people about things they already knew about, and then just try to come up with a solution to a problem that maybe wasn't too hard to solve, and the solution's already out there. But this is just more, not educational, but just trying to explain things to people who don't have the experience in crypto, because let's be honest, we're all pretty new to this. We're all still trying to figure it out. But I think that was the biggest hurdle. But there was a lot of like kind of overlap. And I think another big thing, especially working in marketing and talking to people like internationally, I think learning how to work within like time zones is another big one. Because a lot of my work was just, we're in the US and there's maybe a 4 hour time difference. And now we're like, when we get up in the morning, I'm like, okay, we have some clients or people we're talking to in China, like they're 12-hour difference, or India 12-hour difference. Like, we have to make sure that when they're online, I need to send a message in the morning just to make sure that we're on the same page for the day before they log off. So just some things that you didn't, maybe I didn't necessarily think about when I was working in a different environment.
But one thing that I often struggle with, and it's something that I would really love to hear from your side, is what do you say when people ask you what you do for a living? What do you say? What do you say to people?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends. If it's in passing and they're like, "Hey, what do you do for work?" I'm like, "Oh, we work in marketing." I'm like, "We make videos for people in tech, in the tech sector." I try to just kind of explain that, and then if they ask more, then it's like, "Okay, how much time do you have?" But if it's like people that we know, and they're like actually genuinely interested in asking questions, a lot of the times it's like, "Oh, you do YouTube. How many subscribers do you have?" Because I think a lot of people, it's like, okay, everybody wants to start their own YouTube channel, like, but I think a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to actually do this full time, and to actually have like a full team of editors and like marketing, and Drew being, I know he's the star of the show and kind of like the main person on camera, but there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes to it. And that's one of the things I think there is some negativity around, not just in the crypto sector, but just YouTubers or influencers or whatever you want to call them in general. A lot of people are like, that's not a real job. You should go get a real job and kind of stuff. And it's like, if you saw the amount of work that went into this behind the scenes and all that, then I think there's a lot of like misconception there.
I have a really unique way of gauging somebody's kind of understanding of the modern economy. And
Hmm.
it's exactly like you were saying, it's through that question. It's when
Hmm.
you tell them that you're doing something like YouTube, social media, content creation, and they are always, we see it really often, the comments of like, oh, you wait until you need to get a real job, or you say
Hmm.
like, oh, but that's not a real job. And that kind of reaction, it helps me to gauge where that person's understanding is of the
Hmm.
current economy, because actually this is the new meta, if you would,
Hmm.
in gaming, the most efficient tactic available, like the meta. This is the meta, like starting a YouTube channel, being online, having an online presence.
Hmm.
These are the new businesses. There's no doubt about it. We've seen so many incredible successes that you can't deny it anymore. It's no longer possible to say like, oh, this isn't a real job.
Right.
even outside of the amount of work that we put in, because like you said, we don't work 9 to 5, hours. We work 9 to 9, 9 to 1.
Right.
Sometimes it can be really, really time intensive, but not just time intensive, like the risk reward is also far
Mhm.
more valuable than I feel than a normal traditional job. Sure, you lose the security maybe of
Mhm.
a traditional position and these big corporations, and I mean that does exist in crypto, but within the creator economy like that we as VoskCoin operate in, you maybe lose a little bit of that security, but you gain so much upside. Like there's so much infinite potential to scale this this brand that we're building. And so to me, I feel like it shows someone's ignorance when they say,
Mhm.
oh, go get a real job, or you see a comment like that. And it's not really their fault. People have been
Mhm.
taught over the generations that the most efficient tactic is to go to university or go to college and get a degree, get some sort of certification that you can prove your knowledge and understanding of a subject matter, and then you'll get employed. But the economy today, it just doesn't work like that.
Right.
And especially in my country, South Africa has, from what I can remember, like a 60% youth unemployment rate. Like
Mm.
absolutely mind-boggling amount of people who want to find work but can't.
Right.
And we're still expected to be following the same route that everyone else is. So to me, I think it really shows that there is still a lot of ignorance, and it's still relatively new. We're still
Mhm.
in a new era of business and economics, and it's really exciting to be at the forefront of that. And that kind of leads me to one of my questions that I've really wanted to ask is, being with VoskCoin and this brand that we're building, what's like one of your favorite parts of being with the brand, and perhaps your least favorite part? What's something that is really, weighs down on you, maybe something you don't enjoy too much?
Yeah, I think the biggest, I guess my favorite and also least favorite is the autonomy of having a YouTube channel. You get to make whatever content you want to make, but at the same time, a lot of people don't like some of the directions that you take. And I think like a lot of Drew's focused in the past year or so, especially with the HED mining shed, the digital shovel pod, like the immersion stuff. A lot of his focus, kind of this bear market, has been how can I get back to having fun? And a lot of people really kind of talk down some of the stuff, whether they were here when we first started GPU mining and they don't like the direction that we're taking, or they don't enjoy that we have sponsors sometimes, stuff like that. There's a lot of negativity around that, but I think that's just it's like it's a cool part of our job that we get to decide what we want to create every day that we wake up. You know, you can wake up and you can say, I'm going to do this video. I'm going to look into how I can do this. And that's like a really cool part of it. But again, like some people don't like that side of like, well, I started here at GPU mining and you're not doing much of that anymore. And it's like, well, are you mad at us that we're not doing that, or are you mad at the market? Because a lot of our decisions are business decisions. What makes sense for the channel? What makes sense for like making money, not just as like a content creator, but also for our users? What are they going to be interested in? Because there's only so many videos that we can make that say like GPU mining isn't great anymore. I'm sorry, guys, but like this is kind of the direction we have to take. In a way, it's a great thing, but some when people are not happy with the decisions that you make, I think sometimes it can get you down, especially if you're like super invested in something or you're super excited about something and then people just kind of like HDD mining is stupid. Like, why would you buy a whole shed for this? And Drew's like, I mean, I'm having fun with it. And now I have a field office and I can like go out there and comfortably like be on my laptop if I need to, or all this stuff. And it's like, people also forget that like we're humans too. And like these are decisions that we think about every day, and like there are things that we do because we want to do them and they're good for the channel, but ultimately at the end of the day we're just trying to create good content for the viewers, and have fun at the same time. So it's a struggle, it's a push and pull, but you kind of just have to find a balance of the two.
Yeah, I've seen over the last 2 years that push and pull that you've mentioned. It's very real, and I really like the way you put it, like to really drive home the fact that like we're humans behind this camera, behind the screen that you're watching on. Like these are actual individuals. These are people who have hopes, dreams, aspirations, fears, weaknesses, and strengths. But
Right.
people seem to forget that when they're in an online space where there's this almost pseudonymous space where you can hide behind your profile, you can hide behind
Right.
your username, and that leads to people lashing out and getting their own frustrations out on the easiest target, which is what's in front of them. And so I know that like I don't want to say like hate comments, but I mean we receive quite a lot of really negative feedback and everything. So how do you cope and manage with that in your own personal capacity as someone who is engaged to be married to this person who receives so much negative feedback from people, like other humans are genuinely saying such disgusting things. I know often you really feel empowered to take action and speak out against them. So, from your perspective, what is how has that been? How has that affected you, and how do you cope with it?
I think originally it was definitely like a hurdle and a struggle for me to kind of understand that coming from the corporate world, because the corporate world is very much like you're face to face with people, you see them every single day. Like I'm not going to have a coworker who maybe disagrees with something I wrote or something I said come and be like, "Wow, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. What a waste of time and money." Like I'm sorry, but that just doesn't happen in real life. And it is so easy for people to just hide behind a keyboard, throw out hateful things, and then forget that the person they're talking to is human. Because a lot of times, like, we don't try to engage with commentary like that because it's just not worth the mental space. There are going to be haters out there no matter what you do. If you find an amazing project and you're like, wow, I've made money off of this, or this would be great for the team, there's always going to be someone that's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but there's always going to be a minority of people who just have negative things to say. And I think the important thing to think about is it is just a minority, and it's a really loud minority. I mean, Drew and I talk about all the time, the like whenever you go out to eat and you have a bad meal, the first thing you want to do is post a negative review on Yelp. Like, but when you go out and you have a great meal, I'm not first thinking about, let me post that awesome review on Yelp. Like, people always want to go and say something negative, and it is easy because they don't have a face to a name, or anything. It's just a profile. And that's like the hardest thing, because it's like, okay, well, if you truly feel this way about what we're saying or what we're doing or whatever, then make a video about it. Show your face, tell us what you would do instead, because that's the kind of stuff we're interested in. We want to hear, like, not just the negative comments, but what would you do instead? Why is this not a good idea? And why is it bothering you so much that you need to make a comment about it when it doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing? Because that's the reason we started this channel, was to document our crazy crypto journey from the beginning. And that's what the channel is. We're not telling anybody to buy anything. We're not telling anybody they need to invest or build an HDD mining shed. We're just telling you, hey, this is what we're doing and we're having fun with it, and we want to share that. And I hope people enjoy some of the content that we make. But there are definitely days where, like, if somebody else makes a negative review or video about VoskCoin or makes negative comments, there are definitely days where, like, it's frustrating, and it's like I see Drew put in all this time every, like, day after day. I see us, like, not really getting full weekends off or going on vacations or stuff like that because he's so invested in his work, and that's a choice that we make for our lifestyle. And there's nobody, like, nobody's comments are going to change how we continue to do that. We take feedback, obviously, and like always listen to what people have to say, but if people are just going in there with the sole goal to hate on what we're creating, it's just not worth the time or the mental space.
Yeah, I mentioned it in our first episode actually, that I kind of actively make an effort to avoid comments and so forth on
Mhm.
videos that I know will generate some sort of reaction,
Yeah.
because we've spoken about it at length on both previous episodes of the pod, that crypto is still incredibly tribalistic and it's incredibly segregated, and people are not willing to come together and understand and bring about that almost fun factor, like you mentioned. It's like Vosk is doing this for his entertainment, for his passion. And if we spoke about it last time, if investors were to come in, that would just sap and drain all of that passion out, because it would just be doing something for the sake of it, which ironically I think a lot of crypto YouTubers are doing. They do it because they see there's an opportunity to make money and a chance to get affiliate referrals, and they'll just make a video on anything. But for Vosk, it's like the passion, the energy, that's where it started and that's where it's continuing to go. And it's something that I personally really feel is a drawing factor for me to really go all in onto the brand that we're building. And just in a bit of an aside to what we've spoken about, how this negativity that we face, to round it out, it's interesting. I recently found a kind of framework on happiness and how we can understand happiness as people, and it's by some psychiatrist doctor guy, and he says that 99% of the time, in people that are happy, they're looking at the world through a lens of gratitude and humility. And I think those two factors are often severely lacking in crypto. People aren't grateful for what they have, they just want more. There's greed, there's just that kind of pride and ego. There's no humility. And so I think a lot of people, maybe it can lead to a lot of unhappiness. And then, like we said, we're an easy target because we're running at the front lines of the content creation game. We're an easy target. So it's not necessarily their fault, and I really try to stay positive and engage with the amazing community that we've built, because it's really awesome to see how incredible the community is, that support us and that are there for us and have our backs. They really make it worth all of the effort that is put in, because Vosk gets those messages of how people can completely change their lives because they decide to try it out. It's like you said, we're not telling you to do anything. We're showing you what is happening. And if you decide to take that jump or try it out yourself, then it could change your life or it couldn't. But don't feel like the pressure is on because we are, covering that sort of content. But as we continue into this next bull cycle, this next hopeful uptick in the markets, what is your kind of focus as Alexa, both Vosk's partner, as well as Miss Vosk, the HR, PR, admin side of the brand? What is your focus as we move forward in the coming months?
I think our main focus is just kind of like building relationships, especially within the community. We definitely want to do more like mining farm tour stuff, but also kind of build the brand. I think one of the big differences that our channel has had is that even though we are in a bear market, we're continuing to grow. With the immersion shed, with the HED mining shed, we've continued to do mining farm tours. And I think our content quality, and I'm not just saying this, I think our content quality has gone up a lot. I think the people who are going to come back from the last bull market, maybe who took a break during the bear, are going to be like, wow, Vosk has done a lot in the past, like even year or two, which is really cool. We're actually starting to see comments like that now of just like, wow, I haven't seen your videos in like a year, and you're doing a lot now, and that's really cool to see. And like you said, there are a lot of people out there who do comment say or send us emails saying like, you've changed my life, like I've learned more about a second passive income opportunity for me, and now I can spend more time with my kids, and like you're the reason I started like moving towards creating my own mining farm or my own business. Or like some of the resellers that we've worked with have said like, you're the reason I'm doing this. And like that's the stuff that keeps us going, is just those people, and just the positive influence that there is in crypto. And that's what we're trying to keep doing, is keeping the positivity, and just kind of sharing and educating more people going into the next bull run, because we continue to make a plethora of just good information, good, like documenting our journey, just all that kind of stuff through it, even in the bear market. And I think that is a good resource for people jumping into it when the market starts to change.
That's awesome. I agree 100%. And just in line with, you mentioned people saying, we've given them an opportunity to spend more time with kids and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. I think the question on everybody's mind is, when is the baby Vosk? When is baby Vosk going to be making an appearance? What are your plans that side?
Well, we definitely want to we're getting married next year, so fall of 2024. And then we'll start thinking about kids then. But we still have a little bit of time. We definitely kind of, I know we Drew and I have been together for a while, and we had focused more like at the beginning of our relationship, just building the business and having like a stable business that could provide us some sort of stability. And so we've been focused on that the last few years, just making sure we're stable, we have a good income, we can support our team through the years, even in a bear market. And before we introduce a family, right now it's just our little family with tails, so we still have a couple years.
And is Tails going to be getting a little fur brother, fur sister, maybe? Or are you guys
I
considering
wish,
that?
but Tails is very much an only child dog. she's she's not, ever since she got sick, she's kind of had some, like she's a little standoffish with other dogs, and she's kind of protective of us, and even with other humans. People see our 10 seconds of Tails footage and they love her and they want to pet her, and they like, we've had some people see her out in public and be like, oh my gosh, and like, is that a fox? And we're like, no, that's our dog. But they always want to pet her, and it's like, one, she's a Shiba, and a lot of Shibas are kind of just like standoffish to begin with, but two, she developed like a lot of like trust issues after her being sick and having to go to the vet. She went, I mean, this was towards the beginning of the channel, but she got very sick and had to go to the vet like weekly and get blood draws. And after that, she was just like, anybody that's new, like, could potentially be a vet. And she just doesn't like them. But I get that. It's hard.
Yeah, that period, I think, having joined after Vosk, and you guys went through that saga with Tails, I think it was kind of the instigator to push Vosk towards going
Mhm.
full time and taking this more seriously, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, Tails got really sick, and this was towards the beginning of our relationship too. We'd only been dating like a year or two, and it was definitely like a challenging thing for us, because it was like, what do we do? Like, this is, Tails means so much to us. Like, now we have all these medical bills, and like, it was a challenging experience, but it brought me and Drew closer together, and it definitely like helped us solidify just being there for like the little moments, and not, forgetting about those, because there was several months where we weren't even sure if Tails was going to make it past 2 years old, because of what the vet was telling us, but she pulled through, and that was awesome, and it was definitely a learning and growing experience for all of us. So, and it pushed Drew to really take a step into this, because I mean, at the time we'd gotten like a note from our vet saying Tails needed 24/7 monitoring. Drew and I were long distance at the time, so I couldn't be there for every single day. And he was just like, I can't come in today. Like, Tails, I can't leave her. Basically, she was at risk of bleeding out and all of that. And so she needed medication, she needed monitoring. She wasn't allowed to eat hard food, all that stuff. And she pulled through after that, but Drew's work wouldn't let him take off, and he was like, well, she means the world to me, so this isn't really, I don't have a choice. So after that he kind of just moved straight into crypto, and where it was just like it was a challenging time, and he was just kind of like, everybody always tells you like you need to have a full-time job, like you need to graduate college, you need to check all these boxes, and he was like, well, I care about this little dog, and like I need to take care of her, and it's going to be hard at first, but we're going to make it work, and we did. So
Wow, that's really precious.
yeah.
I as a dog dad, myself, I also really feel that dogs are the new kids.
Yeah.
So I can really understand how much of a kind of push that must have been for him to really take initiative, take the jump, go against the beaten path of, like you're saying, traditional work-life balance and everything. And even now, it's been 4 years since he really took everything seriously, and the channel has made incredible strides. When I joined in the December of, I think it was 2020, you guys were at like 140,000 subs. Now we've pushed, made our way towards more than 500,000. We're on track towards that 1 million goal, and we've made thousands of videos, and it's just been such an incredible experience personally as like an editor and as a part of the channel. But for you, as someone behind the scenes, what's something that has really made you proud, like, of the brand? Because obviously Vosk, I'm sure you're incredibly proud of the man that you've chosen to spend your life with. But as the brand itself, what is something that, what is the point that you're most proud of?
I don't know. I guess a lot of it has to do with just seeing Drew create something that he kind of uh, he's passionate about, and just kind of seeing him take things wherever he wanted to take them, because there is nobody behind the scenes that tells us, hey, you should focus on this week, or hey, what if you spent time here? Like, these are all decisions that Drew actively makes, and we actively make, and even our team actively makes, of what direction do we want to take the channel. And I think it's really cool looking back, even like you said, just 2 or 3 years ago, and us only having 100,000 subscribers, or and even then that was like, wow, 100,000, we made it. Like, and we've been so thankful for all the supporters throughout our journey, as they come, as they go. I know it's changing markets. There are going to be people that are in and out, and that's okay, and like we understand that, but like we're going to be there through the whole thing. And so whether you're here from the beginning or you're a new subscriber, I think it's awesome just to share like our journey, and just kind of looking back on it. I think that's what we're most proud of, is where were we 2 years ago, where were we 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that just the different chapters that we've had, just kind of looking back, like 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 4 years, and just seeing the growth over time. I think that's what we're most excited about, and just kind of proud of seeing, and it's the direction that kind of we've liked with the channel, and it's cool to see the growth year over year.
Yeah, no, it really is something that I also have been really proud of, being a part of this project that, to be honest, when you're still kind of young and entering the job market, it's like a huge risk to jump into something that is so uncertain.
Right.
But it really feels like we've made the right decision to take that autonomous position. Like you said, that autonomy really makes work so enjoyable, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility. Like we have, like you were saying, there's no one to tell you, like, this is what's going to happen this week, and these are what, our next quarter targets are. And like, there's none of that corporate stuff, which in a sense is really fun, and it makes it enjoyable. But it also brings with it a lot of stress and a lot of kind of maturity that's required in order to meet the targets that you need to get to. So it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed being a part of the team, and I'm sure you have as well. But even as this sector is still growing, like we said, it's still relatively young. But one thing that I don't often speak about, or I don't actually have many people to speak about it with, is that this is a relatively male-dominated industry. Yep. Like, there are very few females in crypto. Do you ever feel mistreated or any sort of difference when you're, now that you're full-time in this space as a strong, independent female? Do you ever feel mistreated or looked down upon or anything like that? Or is it just normal business as usual?
It's definitely different. I think, the government contractor I worked with before was in technology, which is also a male-dominated field, but it is very different, especially online, again, because they can say whatever they want behind a keyboard. And I think even with some of the partners that we've worked with, or sponsors that we've had, a lot of them are like, might hear a segment that I do, and I've had people say, like, before, well, I didn't know Miss Vosk was going to do it. We wanted VoskCoin. And I'm like, okay, I get that, but like, you're paying for coverage on the channel, and the VoskCoin is a team. It's not just him. Just because he's the one in front of the camera every single day doesn't mean there's a whole team behind him supporting him in what he does. And that was like definitely a hurdle at the beginning of when I started to do segments more, especially because it was just Drew. And now we've started to integrate more of our team members on the channel, like you with the podcasts and some of the other videos that you've done. And I think it's good to switch it up, especially just like, not just to change things a little bit on the channel, but also just kind of balance it out for Drew sometimes, of like, just being behind the camera every single day is a lot, and we want to get different perspectives and different people's opinions out there too. So that was definitely an adjustment. And then people behind the keyboard also, just with different people we work with, telling me what to do versus they would never say something like that with Drew. And you just have to kind of remember that this is new, and I mean, I don't point things out and be like, well, I'm part of the team too, but I try to understand where they're coming from. But yeah, it can be frustrating sometimes, but every single person on our team, I think, is super open-minded and has been welcoming to me, especially because they've all been here longer than I have full time. So I've felt nothing but appreciation and love from our team, which is what matters to me most. So I think we've got a great team behind VoskCoin.
Yeah, that is without a doubt definitely a statement that I can back, and I think it's the driving force of what will take us to new heights, and what will really get us to the kind of goals that we've set, and even the goals that we maybe haven't even thought of. The things that are so grand that we maybe don't even expect it to happen. But I do believe that coming together with the really multinational team that we have, it's really cool to see that, we have a team spread across the globe. And as we continue to scale, hopefully we can continue embracing that multifaceted aspect, because everyone brings a new kind of perspective, something new to the table. And everyone has different sets of skills as well. That really makes it very exciting. So it's been really amazing to see the growth of both you and the team. But I think to run it back, it's definitely, you have to develop a thick skin. Like hands down, you've got to have that mental resilience to be able to withstand the onslaught of both negativity and maybe even sometimes subconsciously sexist ways of business, which is unfortunate. But as we progress, I think that we'll continue to grow as a sector. What are your thoughts on crypto as a whole, in terms of the potential for the next few years, and maybe some business, not business, but government regulations, What are your thoughts? I know you've been very involved in the FTX hearings and the legality behind everything. I would really love to hear about your perspective on crypto's future, what you think about it, and what you can see happening maybe.
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle, especially on the US side, in terms of regulations surrounding cryptocurrency, is just a lack of understanding of it. You have our regulators trying to come up with these different rules and restrictions and regulations on things that they don't understand. And I think there's several like representatives out there that have been true like brand ambassadors for crypto and blockchain. And I think those people are great and they're trying to educate people, but it's just scary that there are some regulations being tossed around that just don't make sense, especially around like taxing cryptocurrency and all of the stuff. It doesn't scale quite right. I can understand taxing like cryptocurrency with like the way we do with stocks and just kind of like capital gains and when we withdraw things, but when it comes to mining, I think there's a huge discrepancy there, and it just is completely overcomplicated, and you can tell it's because there is an understanding of how things work. Because if you threw one of these representatives into a mining farm and said, okay, now you have 100 miners, how do you do your taxes on this stuff? Do you like, because I'm not going to get into all of it, but it's just there's a lack of understanding, and before we create regulation around it, that needs to be changed. But yeah, I've been following a lot of the hearings closely, and that's something that I've been trying to do, like just following news, especially because it has the FTX, BlockFi, 3AC, all of that stuff has affected a lot of people, and it's interesting to see how they're tackling those things in court. I think the FTX hearing is a little bit different because there's some fraud and not some, there's a lot of fraud
A lot.
and and all of that, whereas I think some of the other hearings are kind of the result of what happened with FTX. And it's interesting to see the judges kind of either take action really quickly and shut it down, either because they think crypto is a scam in general, or they're just like, okay, I'm not here for this. I don't want to hear about it. And then there are judges that are kind of like, let me talk to my other like counterpart and see like what he thinks about this, or I just went to a conference about this and I want you guys to kind of mediate things and talk it through. So there are people and judges that are setting precedent for this kind of stuff. And I think that's important. It's not just, yeah, everything crypto is a scam. Let's go. Let's get this out the door. There are some out there that are saying, like, let's have records. We're setting precedent here. Like, this is important. Crypto's not going away. So it is interesting to see the differences between the two. And it's not just like some media stunt. Like these hearings and proceedings have affected like hundreds of thousands of people and their funds. So it is an important thing to talk about for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because the way that you're mentioning it, it kind of comes across that your perspective is that the American what's the word, legislation towards cryptocurrency, do you believe that that will guide a lot of the global legislation towards cryptocurrency? Or do you think the opposite is also possible, that perhaps the EU, or I don't want to say China because there's very little chance that China will ever, make any sort of crypto legislation that is valuable. But do you think there'll be perhaps global legislation that could potentially affect the way that American legislation is enacted? Do you think that's possible, or do you think that American legislation will lead the charge and really help guide the rest of the world?
Without getting too political, I think the US is trying to really like nail things down with crypto. I think they're very against the idea because what's better than the US dollar, you know? How else could we regulate everything and track everything that you're doing? Um, I think the US can try to regulate it all they want. Um, and I think regulation is needed in certain areas, but I don't think they can make crypto go away. And I think I especially don't think international legislature will really follow suit with the US, because I think the US is very controlling in that aspect of cryptocurrency. And I think a lot of international countries see cryptocurrency as a safe like gateway for some of their funds, especially second world and world countries that maybe don't have a stable currency. So I think there are certain areas where maybe some regulation in terms of just taxation, if they want to keep taxing it the way they do or changing it or whatever. But I don't think, in terms of like just bogging down crypto in general, I don't think that will be super mainstream across the world. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I tend to lean towards your perspective as well, in that, America is known for their really overbearing control of citizens' financial
Mhm.
situations. So naturally, a technology like cryptocurrency stands to diminish their control, and likely it will be, not looked upon with the best perspective. Whereas globally, there are varying situations and conditions across countries. So I'm also super interested to see how both America begins to take action towards legislation,
Mhm.
but also other countries, and to really see how it affects the markets themselves. I think we're at a very interesting turning point for crypto as an industry, because the previous two bull cycles were, we were getting there. We were growing. We were getting some mainstream attention. This most recent 2020, 2021 cycle, like, news sites were actively reporting on crypto
Yeah.
prices and the Dogecoin millionaire and all of that. But now it's non-existent. It's gone.
Yeah.
There's no coverage. It's just kind of faded. And I think that opportunity to have seen how the markets reacted then, once it begins to kind of find another mainstream avenue, I'm really excited to see how that will take off the markets, bring the technology into everyday life. Because currently, in our last episode, we were saying, you're not going and paying for your coffee with Bitcoin, and no one's buying stuff with XRP at your local
Right.
store. It's a very niche technology at present, but the scalability is there. So it's very interesting to see how we will navigate in the coming years, this technology that could upset but also change many, many parts of the world.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in this next bull run, because there has been a previous bull run now with a ton more people adapting and adopting crypto. And I think those people will come back in the next bull run. Whereas I feel like the last bull run, we didn't really have a huge explosion of adoption prior. There obviously have been other bull runs and other bear markets, but I feel like the last one just being the biggest, we're going to get a lot of those returners soon. And I think it will just help continue to grow exponentially moving forward. So we'll see how things kind of change with that for sure.
Yeah, and just to kind of round out our episode for today, this awesome chat that we've happened to have, maybe the first Vosk free VoskCoin episode. But just in your opinion, what is some advice that you would give to somebody who's coming into the space now, who's never been in crypto before? What is some advice that you can give from both a seasoned subject matter expert as well as someone who works in the field itself? What would some advice be?
I think some advice is just be open to growing pains, because there are going to be some. Again, this is still kind of a very new platform, like currency. Everyone's still trying to figure it out, but also it's so important to do your own research and come up with your own opinion about it, because there's so much FUD everywhere. I mean, even on Twitter, people try to phrase things to make it sound worse than it is. And if you do research behind the scenes of like, well, this is actually what happened and this is why it happened, there's tends to be explanation for everything. So I think just doing your own research, figuring out who the trusted people are, just knowing the people behind projects, I think will be a huge kind of trend in the next market is like not having anonymous teams, because I think there is a lack of trust at this point, especially what happened with FTX. And I mean, that wasn't an anonymous team either, but there just needs to be more public audits. People will value that more, I think, in the next market. That'll be a trend, just audits, non-anonymous teams. So I think just doing research before you invest and not investing more than you are willing to lose. So just the normal stuff. Obviously, this is not financial advice, but pretty much just
Oh
doing
man.
your own research, figuring out what you're interested in and not what everybody else says that you should be interested in. I think that is kind of where the passion will follow, and just kind of the next bull run for sure.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think the two pillars that you've mentioned are information and responsibility. Like if you can gather and source your information from respectable sources and from individuals that have your best interest at heart or are completely neutral third parties, I feel like that is a really valuable kind of pillar to hold on to. But also responsibility, like being responsible with your funds, with your personal savings. It's so sad to see these stories in the bull run, in the peak of the bull run, like after everything has started coming down, of, oh, I put my life savings into X coin and I mortgaged my house to put all of our savings into Y coin. And those kind of really, really get rich quick mentality perspectives are, I think, what give crypto a very dangerous and elusive atmosphere. But if you're responsible about it, it can be a really fantastic financial instrument. And it can make you money in the same sense that stocks and other investments can make you money. It doesn't have to be something that you sacrifice all of your life's work for a bet, because at that point it's just gambling. And right. So a really fun way that I look at crypto and my personal investments is the money I'm willing to invest into crypto. If I had it cash in my hands, if I could put that cash on the table and set it alight and not be upset about it, then that's good. That's what I'm willing to invest. And so it's like, you have to have that perspective that like, this could go to zero, this could disappear, but you're still willing to take that chance. And if you're not willing to do that with your life savings, man, I don't know why you would take that jump. So I think, especially in our community, I don't think we have individuals who are like that. I think, as we've mentioned before, the community of VoskCoin is some of the most well-researched, some of the most intellectual individuals. And I'm really excited to see the plays that we all make in the upcoming months towards the bull run. And, let's learn more and earn more together. That's kind of the, the phrase of the channel. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much, Alexa, for your time, for your insight into some behind the scenes of, the VoskCoin world. And I don't think this will be the last time. Definitely we'll want to have you on again, chat more about some of the more personal side, you and Vosk, and get to know you guys, because I think we see a lot of Vosk, but not a lot of you guys, and so it would be really cool to get to know you as a couple and you as the team behind this incredible brand that has been built. You guys are really a power couple, if ever you could use that term. So thank you so much again for your time. And thanks to everyone for tuning in, for watching. If you've watched all this, all the way to the end here, we really appreciate you. Like, you are the core subscriber base that we put in all of this effort for. And we really love you and appreciate you. And please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you guys on the next podcast and the next episode. Please stay tuned. Follow Vosk's crazy crypto journey. But we'll see you guys later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.